Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the PM Learning Series. Today is a very, very exciting one because we have a special edition focused on helping aspiring PMs breaking into product management. And today with me, I have a very special co-host, Andrew, who's an aspiring PM at LinkedIn. Andrew, say hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Altschul. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. And then obviously we have all of your favorite PM influencer on LinkedIn, Diego. Thank you so much, Diego, for joining us today.
Yeah, no, on the contrary. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super excited to be here with everyone.
Awesome. So this is part of LinkedIn Learning's product management learning series, a series of live streaming events where industry thought leaders and product practitioners share their career journeys as well as lessons learned to help inspire aspiring and current PM to level up their product career. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter to receive future event updates as well as recaps of current events. Andrew has also been the behind the scene heroes who has been helping us crafting some of those newsletter articles. So thank you so much, Andrew, for helping us. And for those of you joining us live today, please introduce yourself, drop in the chat where you're watching us from and what you're hoping to learn from Diego. So let's see. We have a lot of folks joining from India. Hello, Amanda from Seattle. I think a lot more folks will trickle in, so we'll do another round of intro to welcome everyone. But today, I want to pass the baton to the mic to Andrew to start our interview with Diego. So Andrew has helped us to thoughtfully come up with a great list of questions that we believe are most commonly asked among aspiring PMs. And for those of you who are joining us, feel free to drop in the chat what questions you have for Diego, and we'll make sure that we feature and address your question from time to time. Now we're seeing a lot of highs from everybody. We have Sandra from Brazil. My chat's just like blowing up. It's really hard for me to actually call the names and call and where they're dining in from. So we have all over the world from Oxford, UK, Alex, a lot of folks from India, Gautam from Cincinnati, more folks from Seattle, Kurla from Boston, London, Chicago, Ann Arbor. Thank you so much, folks. Diego clearly has a global community of fans. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Off to you, Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Shavi. Well, one thing we really like to do here on the Product Management Learning Series is to talk a little bit about career journeys. So without further ado, we'd love to pass it over to you, to Diego, to hear a little bit more about your pathway to product management.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Mexico. Mexico City is home for me. And I studied electric engineering, thinking that I wanted to go into more on the computer side, a little bit on the technology, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I spent about 5 years working in business intelligence consulting, and I got very immersed into the world of data. But I got tired of it. So I thought, I don't want to do data anymore. I was very naive at the time. And I decided that my next thing was going to be to do an MBA, because I wanted to switch my career. I wanted to do something different. In reality, I wanted to go into the tech industry. So I came to the US to do my MBA. I went to Duke University, and that's where I realized that product management was a thing. And it was an amazing discovery because I loved everything about product management, because I compared it to my past experience in consulting, and it had all the great things about consulting without the not so great things about consulting. So that's really how my journey started. I know one of the most popular questions that I get is, do you need an MBA? And the answer is no, but it was my path, because for me, I just discovered product management after I joined my MBA. So I started my journey as a product manager at Cisco, then moved on after 2 years to Seattle, lovely city to work for Microsoft in AI and machine learning. And then 2 years later, I came back to California to work now at LinkedIn as a senior PM. So that's a little bit of my journey, and super excited to be here in this session and answer any questions you guys have.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think, Diego, that's really great. And one of the things we keep hearing on this series is all the different pathways to becoming a product manager. So that's great to hear a little bit about your journey. So let's jump into some questions about actually breaking into product management itself. So what advice would you have for college graduates or maybe early career professionals with 1 to 2 years of work experience who are looking to become product managers? And then also, how might that strategy differ for some mid-career pivoters who might have a little bit more experience, maybe 5 to 10 years, but are also interested in becoming product managers themselves?
Absolutely. Let's start, like you said, let's start with those who just graduated, have a couple of years of experience. So, for those of you who just graduated a couple of years ago, have 1 or 2 years of experience, a couple of things to understand is one, that one of the paths is to get very close as you can to a product team. That is, starting a career in tech and getting into something like product marketing, business operations, business analyst, or even software developers. So trying to get close to the product team, get this interaction with product managers, and really getting that hands-on experience of shadowing someone, helping them with small items like taking notes in a meeting, all the way to creating tickets in Jira or whatever system you use for user stories. So getting closer to the teams is one path, and that brings up a bigger perspective here, which is, think of product management as, for example, if it's the goal, doesn't necessarily mean that you start where you are today and right away you get into product management. There are so many paths. So you could take, a step in between where you are today and getting to product management. So getting closer to product teams. That also applies for those who are in, mid to senior career, 5, 10 years of experience. Another path into product management that you can start today is side projects. Side projects, when you're starting your career, they are amazing because you're full of ideas. You see all this technology emerging. You see problems in your everyday. You see problems in things that your family is going through, like maybe grocery shopping. You find a problem, how inefficient it is, or maybe your friends at school who just graduated, maybe they're struggling with either finding a job or just dealing with their work. So maybe you can invent something. You can go and do your proper research, get some information from them, and find a problem to solve it. And what you're going to do with that is you're really collecting stories to eventually share with in coffee chats with interviewers, with hiring managers, and say, hey, you know what, I've done the work of product management outside of my day-to-day job or outside of my school, because you in the end are going to showcase those skills as a product manager. That solving problems is not just about creating an app or creating a website. It's about understanding customers, or this understanding users, understanding their pain points, solving those pain points, doing hypotheses, experimenting, testing, iteration, and development until you launch and continue with the feedback. This also applies to those who are, after 5 or 10 years of experience. Side projects is also a great way to do that. And then another one, which again also applies to both. Hopefully, you're starting to pick up a theme where the advice for somebody who is early in career and the advice for somebody who has a few years of experience, again, 5, 10, 6, whatever number you want, is not very different, because the path to product management is so it can apply at any stage in your career. So anyway, we briefly talked about getting closer to the product team in an intermediate role. We talked about side projects. Another one is to doing internal transfers, right? So if you are a tech company already, you can network with PMs. You can network with the product managers that are closer to your team to, again, shadow them, help them in small tasks, to eventually make the jump into product management into one of their teams. Or if there's no space, if there's no headcount in their teams, then what you can do is you can take those stories that you have said, you have accumulated as experience, and say, hey, now I have the skills. So you're going to take that, put it in your resume, and then go into another company for product management. So that's another path. And of course, we can get into many others, like, well, do you need an MBA? And the answer is no, but MBA is another path to do that. Masters of Engineering is another path to do that. Is there one better than the others? Not really. What matters is what you're willing to do and what you want to do. Because you could say, you know what, Diego, I love the advice, but I don't have product managers close to me, and I don't want to pay for more education. That's fine. You can always start side projects. You could be the other way around, like saying, hey, you know what, side projects, I love them, but I just don't know how to do them. So I want to see if I can network first internally. Now, the question started with, what is the difference, or what is the two types of advice for somebody early in career and for somebody who is at a later stage in their career? And the advice doesn't change that much. If I have to say something, is, well, some master's degree, like an MBA, typically ask you for 5 or 6 years of experience before you go into your MBA, typically average. And that would be the only difference. Everything else that I've said, doing internal transfers, doing some networking to help PMs, doing side projects, is really not necessarily very different from one another. And let me just say one last thing here. The most important part is to focus on your story, to understand where are you today, what is product management, what are the skills required to get into product management. And then the question is, do you have all those skills? If the answer is yes, that's awesome. Now you have to create and work in your stories. If the answer is I don't have all of these skills, the question now becomes, how do you plan to close the gap between those skills? The number one mistake, and then I'll stop after this, the number one mistake that I see people do is that they don't have all the skills to get into product management. They're not doing anything to show that they can gain those skills, and they just keep applying and applying and applying. And when in reality, they're competing against people who are either experienced in product management already, or who are at least doing something to showcase those skills. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, Andrew. Let me know. But in the end, I don't think there's a big difference between early career and mid-stage career.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Diego shares so much wisdom. So I just want to quickly address some of the comments and questions from the community before we move on to the next set of questions. So I know that a lot of folks like Chanel, excuse me if I mispronounce any names, but Drew have both asked, like, how do you get Shruti? How do you move to product management without experience? Like what Diego mentioned, you can take on side project, you can shadow current PM, you can go on an MBA program if you're willing to, go for the cost and get that experience. And then, there's question around how about senior level executives? What if I didn't want to, start from scratch? Like, what is the path for getting into PM, and what's the right trade-off to make? So yeah, thank you so much, Diego, for sharing your wisdom. I think you have get into a little bit of the next part of the interview too, which is understanding, what are some common mistakes and myths, but also, what if you don't have the PM experience and this chicken and egg of like, all the job application asking you for X number of years of work experience. What would we do in that sense? All right, off to you, Andrew, for continue our conversation.
Great. Well, Diego, I think you talked a lot about some of the good things that can be done to break into product management. And of course, you have a very strong following. So there's a lot of people that want to become product managers that love to tune into your content. What would you say are some common mistakes that you see aspiring product managers make when it comes to becoming product managers themselves?
One of the most common mistakes that I see is, and I was reading through some of the comments as well, is you look for a job, and that job can be, doesn't matter if it's a small, large, big tech company, but you look at the job, and when you try to apply, you immediately start seeing a lot of different skills, a lot of different, hey, and we're looking for 3, 4, 5 years of experience in product management. And the biggest mistake is that people still apply to only those specific roles. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with applying. What you need to shift there in the way of thinking about it, and there was a question about, well, what if I don't want to restart my career? And there was the opposite question of, well, what if I only see roles that are, require 4 or 5 years of experience? What you have to understand there in both sides of the equation is that if you, for example, I forget the name of who asked, but if you have all this experience, many years of experience in something not related to tech, but it's another industry, let's pretend, for example, healthcare. Sure, jumping from healthcare into cloud at Google or Amazon or Microsoft could be a little bit of a stretch and can definitely, make a step back because you don't have that cloud experience. But nothing stops you from getting into your experience of healthcare, having that domain expertise, then looking for a health tech type of company showcasing your product management skills, which after all these years you probably have. So it's about crafting your story. So if you're looking for a big tech type of fan company, it may be a 2-step process, but getting into something where you're really, really, really expert on or have a ton of domain expertise, for those who have a lot of experience in something else, can definitely help with that. On the opposite side, if you're just looking at all these roles that ask for 4 or 5 years of experience in product management, sure, it's going to be really hard. So that's where you need to think about, well, there are less roles of entry level product management. So don't just focus on, I need to get that product management role right now. You can always say, product management is my goal. So how can I get closer to that PM team? What are other teams around them, like product marketing, software engineering, business analyst? How can I get closer to them so that then my next jump is going to be product management, but now I'm inside the company because again, I studied finance, or I studied business development, or a business analyst. So I have some common grounds to that role. So the number one big mistake is trying to apply to roles that you're not necessarily a good fit. And again, don't get me wrong, apply, but think that it's going to be harder, and you have to shift your perspective on how to do that. So that's one mistake. Another mistake that I see a lot of people do is focusing too many hours on the resumes. Resumes are important, but if you don't have, like I was saying earlier, the skills to cover everything that you read in the job description, it's going to be really hard to make an argument for why you are a great fit for the role. So work on your resume, work on your LinkedIn profile, make sure that everything is polished. But then after some point, you need to stop and you need to start thinking, am I covering all the skills? Am I having everything that they're asking for in a job description? And again, if the answer is yes, that's awesome. Maybe you have to tweak and maybe do more of the networking side to tell your story. But if the answer is no, you need to start thinking immediately, what side project or what thing am I going to create to close the gap? And if you don't want to go the side project route, again, internal transfer, internal networking. So there are many paths, but it's not just applying for the sake of applying. Mistake number three, just to close on this one, mistake number three that I see is that when people try to break into product management, they reach out on LinkedIn or on Twitter, on these platforms, to experienced product managers for advice. But the way that it's treated is there's so many resources, and I love the PM community because there's just so much out there, so many content creators like CV and myself here. And so we publish all of these because we know there's a ton of people out there that want to do product management, and not so many that create content or that have resources. So we just publish and publish and publish, right? So when you approach product managers in an attempt to break into PM, do it from the perspective of, hey, I want to learn. I want to get an example of, an article or a course or a video, anything that people recommend. Start building the relationship, that rapport, versus approaching it as, hey, I'm really passionate about product management. Help me be a PM. We get so many emails like that it's really hard for us to help every single individual out there. So networking is super important in your road to product management, but treat it from the perspective of, I want to learn little by little. So anyway, those are the top three mistakes that I've seen. Many more, but I would say those are the top three when people try to get into product management.
Awesome. Thank you, Diego. I think the chat have blown up because people are so interested in what you said. And I wanted to double click and follow up on a couple of things. So first, I think a lot of LinkedIn members are curious about what skills you're referring to as a must have. So starting from technical skills to soft skills. So when we talk about, hey, let's work on side projects, which we'll come to that as the next follow-up question, what are some of the skills that you think are particularly important to get a first PM position?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, let's divide it. Soft skills first. We always talk about working cross-functionally, but what does working cross-functionally mean? It's not just, hey, I schedule a meeting in a project and boom, done, working cross-functionally. Working cross-functionally is about bringing the team together. It's, hey, I worked on a class project and I was studying, I don't know, finance, but I was in the club, and I had to work with my friends who are software engineers and others who are in user design and others who are in any other career, bring everyone together, create an event, and make sure that everyone was on board and organized to make the event successful. That is working cross-functionally. On the work side, it's the same thing. It's not just, I push the requirement to the engineers and boom, done, or to the customer and we were satisfied. No, working cross-functionally is bringing everyone together. And when I talk about that, I am bundling a bunch of skills. Working cross-functionally, living without authority is also another big one. Is, hey, I may not have direct reports, but I make I make things happen by bringing the team together, right? Another very important one is dealing with ambiguity and being able to just create a path for yourself and for your team in this ocean of ambiguity. What that means is, you are the co-president or the president or VP of something of a student club, and you need to make an event. How do you make it happen? It's all on you. That's dealing with ambiguity. At work, somebody dropped a project and you'll be like, hey, Diego, please, we need to figure this out. And you made it happen. That's dealing with ambiguity. So a lot of the soft skills on product management that you can start picking up on your school, on your projects, on at work, have to do with bringing people together, influencing, negotiating, moving projects forward. And one of the biggest ones out of all of those things, it's also that you talk, you listen, and you understand and empathize with customers. Customers are not always somebody who purchased something from you. It could be an internal customer or internal user, so another business unit in at work that is using your product or your services from your area. Whatever it is listening to them, understanding their problems, and solving them. Those are soft skills. So for everything that I said, if you're like, I don't know if I've done things like that, now is the moment to think, how can I make that happen at work? Because this doesn't stop at, well, I just haven't had that experience, or maybe I can tweak this small project. No, the question that you should be asking yourself is, if something didn't resonate with you, like, I haven't done that, what are you going to do on Monday to make sure that you have a path to make that happen? How are you going to talk to your boss, your colleagues, another group to be in charge, even if you don't have the authority to say, there's a problem and I'm going to help solve it? It's not I'm going to solve it, it's I'm going to help and bring the team together. On the hard skills or technical skills, just to speak about it for a moment, without getting into a very complex topic, if we just oversimplify, I'm extremely oversimplifying, and we think about product manager and technical product manager, the reality is that unless you're going for a technical product manager role, which again is very technical, think of it as the chief technology officer. I'm oversimplifying things, but think of it as a very technical, scaling things, scaling system, making sure that as our product grows, our platform is not going to blow up and we can definitely serve our users or customers. So as I do that, I do need to understand tech. I need to understand, for example, how cloud works, the tech stack for creating from small apps all the way to complex systems. So you do need a lot of technical skills. But if you're going on the product management side, more like, let's say, the chief strategy officer, more like, hey, what's the strategy, what's the vision? So listening to customers, understanding the data, and figuring out what's the roadmap for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I'm exaggerating in the oversimplification, but the point is that thinking, how can I take these pain points and put a solution to that? The technical skills that you need are very basic things like SQL and maybe storytelling with data. You just need to understand the data enough to be able to tell a story with it. Every company will use slightly different systems. So a lot of people ask me, do I need to know Jira? Do I need to use Figma? Do I need to learn SQL specifically or something else? And the answer is, as long as you can manage your way around data, you should be fine. And to close this, one last thing is, I oversimplified technical PM versus PM. The reality is that most companies don't make a distinction. And a lot of companies also confuse them. And a lot of companies also confuse the title. So the best way to figure out, am I applying for a PM or a technical PM role? Read every job description super carefully. If you get a chance to connect with a hiring manager or recruiter, ask the tough questions. How technical is this position? Is this customer facing? Is this internal facing? Is it a product? Do I own a product? Do I own talking to customers? Figure out exactly what you're going to do, and that's going to give an insight of how technical or not you have to be.
Awesome. Thank you, Diego. We will just address one quick questions and then we'll pass it back to Andrew to go to the next set of questions that we have planned. I think, Diego, you have loosely answered already, but maybe in the most simplest form, you can summarize. I know that quite a few folks asked about what should the side project reflect, in the context of a PM. Is there opportunities to volunteer to work on this product projects, whether it's building on your side project or maybe shadowing PM or other organization that you are aware? Can you give us some example of what those side projects could look like to demonstrate skills?
Absolutely. the least important thing about a side project is how it looks. That's the least important thing, and that's what people focus most of their time. Sure, it has to be a nice app or a nice website, but that's the least important thing of your side project. What your side project from the PM perspective should reflect. And I'm a very, very positive build in public. There's a hashtag build in public, which is share with everyone on LinkedIn, share with everyone on Twitter what you're working on. Is start the process like PMs do. Talk to customers, understand their pain points, run surveys, do interviews, document everything, then move on to doing experimentation and think about, well, how can I solve this problem? Do some rapid mock-ups, learn about Figma. It's super easy. YouTube has a lot of free content on Figma, so learn how to use it, do a mock-up, then go back to those users, test it. Once you're more confident, then it's time to build the app. Remember, working cross-functionally. If you're a software engineer, do not code your own app. If you're not a software engineer, you can either use no code or get some friends to help you that are software engineers, or simply there are a lot of websites where you can hire people by project that is actually not that expensive, that can help you. You can use no code or code, doesn't matter. The point is develop, then launch it, get feedback, and all that process is going to be documented, put in a nice PDF, PowerPoint, website, whatever you want. What that's going to help you is when you get conversations with hiring managers, with other PMs, with people in your network, you can say, oh yeah, I'm a student, or I work on this different areas in whatever industry, but as a side thing, I actually have this project. It's really cool. I interviewed users, I found pain points, I did all of this. So definitely it's a great side project that has given me the skills, not only to say I can go through the entire process of being a product manager, but hey, I can actually be a PM because I got the skills. And let me address the second part of the question super quick, which is volunteering opportunities. At work, at school, there's a ton of volunteering opportunities around you. It's a matter of looking at them. But here's the most interesting thing. I did an experiment, and I might do it again for everyone here. I did an experiment where I posted, hey, if you're working on a side project, post about it. And if you are interested in participating, say that you are interested in helping them. There were so many cool projects out of that. So a lot of people think that you need to start from scratch, start on your own, or find these very complex projects. The reality is that a lot of people here in the audience and on LinkedIn who are aspiring product managers, they are building side projects. So it's just a matter of keep networking, keep asking, keep meeting not only PMs, but also aspiring PMs, because you never know. You can find your next business partner in one of those conversations, and that could start a side project.
Awesome. I think your point has really resonated with the LinkedIn community. People have called out, this is great. Conversations, excellent. Yeah, you nailed it. Now let's move on to the next part of our conversation. Andrew, take it away.
Awesome. Well, Diego, I think you just alluded to the importance of networking. Maybe you've just been able to connect with a PM that you're really excited to talk with. What are some of the best ways to come up with meaningful questions to ask that PM in a networking call, or even in an interview?
That's a great question, because asking questions to others is a great opportunity for you to learn. So when you think about a coffee chat, right, is a unique opportunity. 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever amount of time the other person gave you, it's a great opportunity for you to ask questions. If you spend those 30 minutes, that entire coffee chat, asking things like, hey, how can I apply to your company? Or what skills do you think that I need to become a PM? Things that you can literally go online and search for. That is going to be, I don't want to say a waste of a call, but it's not going to help you advance your career. So start by doing all the research that you can about product management. And when you move on to the coffee chat, ask things that are actually interesting to you, but also interesting to the other person. Ask them about their day to day. That's something that is really hard to find, because every PM position is very different depending on the company, the product, the size, so many variables. But ask about them, ask about their day to day, ask about challenges that they face, ask about things that they recommend for you to take as a next step in your journey to become a product manager. Your entire conversation should focus about building a relationship. You are not there to simply ask questions like if the other person is a wiki page of product management, but you want to be interested in them, in the things that they do, but mostly in their advice. If you go in that conversation thinking, I need to ask them questions that lead to a referral, you probably will not get the referral. And here's the truth behind referrals. Most companies have referrals. But if we want to refer someone at our company, we need to put a lot of information about you. Like, how do we know you? What projects have we worked on together? Or what projects have I seen? What skills do you bring? And how can I justify or give examples of those skills that can benefit the team, the organization that I'm recommending you for? So a referral is not like a candy that I can just give to everyone here in the chat. A referral is much more than that. So your coffee chats are exactly that, an opportunity to build a relationship. Trust me, referrals will come. And then, Andrew, to your second part of the question is, well, how is that different from the interview? The interview is a moment where it's not only about showing, hey, I can ask interesting questions, and I can ask you, classic things like, oh, what is your favorite thing about your company, or what is your favorite project? But it's also a moment for you to interview them, because in the end, you want to make sure that it's a great team, that you are a good fit, and they are a good fit for you. So you're going to ask questions, sure, about what is interesting to them, what do they like about the company. Some people have stayed 10 years at a company, so you want to understand, what is the company giving them that keeps them there for 10 years. But you also want to understand things like, how does the team celebrate, wins? Is it like you go and, make a good party, or nothing happens, so it's just expected? You're going to ask tough questions like, what happens when things go wrong? Is it that they're going to punish you, and so every PM is afraid of making a mistake? Or is it more like, we learn from our mistakes, we iterate, we improve on that, and then we move on into something better? So you get an environment that is, very okay with testing. You're going to ask questions about, hey, what skills do somebody in this role need to be successful? Because you want to understand exactly what is it that you're going to do, what skills you need. And as an example of that, if during this conversation nobody tells you anything about talking with customers, or owning a backlog, or owning the roadmap of your product, then you might not be getting into a product management role. So asking these questions is super, super, super important. So yeah, those are the kind of questions that I would ask in a coffee chat. Again, not necessarily going into referrals. And for the interview is not only about showing that you're interested, but also understanding if you're a good fit and they're a good fit for you.
Awesome. I'd like to just highlight two more comments in the chat of people immediately executing on Diego's advice of looking for side projects to collaborate on. So Nikita, as well as Sherla. So make sure you reach out to each other if you want to work on side project together.
Awesome. And thanks for that answer, Diego. I think on the flip side of asking questions, in a networking call or in an interview, it's very common to get some questions yourself and have to formulate some different answers, whether that's, why are you interested in becoming a PM, or maybe something more complicated and nuanced. What are some of the ways that you would recommend to keep your answers and your story authentic, genuine, and personal when you're networking or you're in an interview?
Yeah, absolutely. And everything that I'm going to share is something that I share on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on my newer course that we can talk about it at the end. I have a surprise for everyone in the chat as well about that. But before getting into any of that, so when you tell your stories, the most generic stories are those that take product management from a book or a podcast or a video, and you just add your name to that information. What I mean by that is, I get a lot of answers like, oh, I want to be a product manager because I want to create products that make users happy. Anybody in the world can tell me that. But if you tell me a story about how you believe that your experience, your past experience, has made you fallen in love with product management, and why you see yourself as a product manager, and it's a very unique story about yourself. Like, for example, when I was answering these questions in my first time, I was talking about how, sure, there's a lot of things that I could say about product management, but the things that I liked the most were the things that I learned when I was in consulting. And I gave examples about my engagement with customers and working with our engineers, and the fun that I had of planning things, and how we suddenly got fires, and how it was my opportunity to bring the team together. So I was demonstrating not only that I had the skills and I had the experience, but it was also something that I enjoyed. My answer was unique to me. And that makes a great answer. Of course, there's an element of storytelling, right? Of how you tell your story. It's not the same to say, I want to be a project manager because I had this amazing experience as a consultant, than to say, let me tell you about a time when, I had this difficult customer. My manager was at that time, off for 3 months on vacation on a sabbatical, and I was the person that had to solve it. At that moment, I realized that product management was for me, and here's why. And then I tell you the whole story of how my team became the hero of this customer. It's about how you tell the story for sure, but more importantly is what elements you bring to the story. So when you think about why product management, why this company, tell me about yourself, like all these kind of things, I always always recommend thinking, when you think of a company like Google, Microsoft, Meta, startup, mid-size, whatever you want, what is it that is interesting to you about that company? But because it's not just the name. And if your answer is, well, it's just the name, your answer is not going to be authentic. I had one person who told me, the most interesting thing for me about Microsoft are the things that they're doing on their green initiatives. At that time, I was a Microsoft employee and I had no idea what green initiatives were there, except for a few ones that I heard about in some internal communication. And so I told this person, a friend from business school, I said, well, how are you going to connect your story from where you are today all the way to the green initiatives at Microsoft? And he was able to create this beautiful story of why he wanted to be a PM and why he wanted to be at Microsoft because of those green initiatives. That makes a great answer. So when you think about, again, answering questions, is not just the storytelling, but it's the elements to make yourself a unique story of why you really want to be a product manager and why at that company.
This is awesome. And by the way, the chat just exploded with people asking each other, offering opportunities to connect, as well as working on side project together. This is exactly the sentiment that and the spirit that we should be building. And thank you so much, everybody, for continuing to staying, tuning in, and supporting each other.
Great. And Diego, maybe shifting gears a little bit, LinkedIn, it's so important to be able to have a strong LinkedIn profile to be able to attract, recruiters and become aware of different, product positions. So what maybe are some things that you would recommend that you can do to your LinkedIn profile to help you attract those recruiters and, get a product management job when you don't have a product title yet?
First, change your mindset about your LinkedIn profile and your resume. Most people create their profile and the resume for themselves. You have to create your profile and your resume for those that you want to attract. In this case, it could be recruiters, it could be hiring managers, or it could be peers. Think about that for a moment. When a recruiter searches on LinkedIn for candidates, what they're doing is they are optimizing for certain keywords. If they're looking, as an example, for a software developer experienced in Java, they're going to put Java as a keyword. So when you think about product management, let's go back to the conversation about skills, working cross-functionally, leading without authority, and sure, tech skills as well, if you have them, if you know how to code, if you know SQL, if you know all these things. So start there. Start thinking about side projects. Sorry, the skills that you're getting through side projects or in your current job, and you're going to tell a story in your LinkedIn profile that talks about how you have the experience of a product manager, even if you don't have the title, but how, hey, I'm an experienced marketer and I'm building a side project that it's about solving this customer pain point that I identify by running 20 surveys or 5 interviews or whatever it is that you did, and then worked with this group of engineers to create this really cool app that you can try here. Here's the link, and here's how you can share feedback. And you keep listing skills and listing how your experience in an industry, your experience in a function, but also that you are incorporating all the skills and all the keywords that a recruiter is going to search for. That's the number one thing. Shift your mindset of how LinkedIn profiles and resumes are built. Remember, you're not building them for yourself. You're building them for whoever you want to attract. But outside of that, which is hopefully new for a lot of people, the other thing is the very, very basic things about a LinkedIn profile. And a lot of people don't think about this, but just by seeing at the comments, a lot of people don't have a complete profile. They don't have a photo. They don't have a banner. Photo and banner are great moments to tell a story about yourself. By the way, if you go to places like Canva for free, there's a ton of LinkedIn banner templates that you can edit and put a ton of keywords there and showcase your projects. You have to put everything else in there, like for every role that you have, add the skills for every single role, right, that you learn there, and add again product management skills. Then your about section is another great opportunity, like I was saying earlier, to talk about your story of how you're creating all these side projects. So complete your profile, and it's not just completing for the sake of completing it, but it's also thinking that your profile is built for recruiters and for others. And then let me give you another tip here, because a lot of people also ask me, well, but how do I start? How do I create a LinkedIn profile that is good enough for recruiters? So here's a tip. Think about 5 companies that you want to work at as a product manager. Go to LinkedIn search, the search bar at the top, and type product manager, and then filter. Use the filters to filter for those 5 companies, and look for product managers, and tap on every single profile and read them, and ask yourself, well, does it sound like product management? Like, are they adding skills? Are they adding projects? Are they adding things? And start getting ideas on how other people have put together their profile, because I'm sure that yes, they are product managers, but they weren't at some point. So maybe they started adding things and left a few things there. You can see how they made the transition and how their profile, their entire profile was created. So get inspiration from others. Don't copy exactly the same things. I never recommend that, but get inspiration from them. Complete your profile, and again, think that your profile is built for recruiters and for hiring managers or whoever you want to attract to your profile.
Great.
I love that advice. I love that advice. I would just add, like, I think the best way to network, as well as looking at the profile and applying for company that might be open to career pivoters who were not CS degree or PM, like former PMs, is looking at their profile. Like, did they actually previously had PM or no PM experience? How did they pivot it into product? And that was my tip, actually, when I made that transition myself, was talking to people who have made a similar transition and only a year or 2 year ahead of me, and asked, hey, how did you do it? Right? Like that. I think that was the best tip.
Well, great. And I think this next question is very similar to what Erica and Saurabh have shared in the comments. But, let's say you're already working at your dream company in a product adjacent role. How would you recommend making that internal transition to PM? And I know, Diego, you've already shared quite a few tips about how to stand out from your colleagues. But, maybe some last other tips about how to do that when networking internally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that let me start by the mistake. The mistake is, for example, if you are working close to, say, for example, a specific product in your company, but your goal is that other one that is really far away. To put it in the context of an example, imagine that you're working for a product at Microsoft like Office, and your goal is to get into Xbox. Sure, same company, but the further the product is from you, the harder it'll be to shadow PMs, because you're not in their product org. It's still interesting to learn about the other team, but it's going to be really difficult to offer a lot of things to them. However, if you're working on the same or close to that team, you can bring a lot of insights. For example, if you work in sales, you can bring a lot of perspective from customer. Same if you work in customer support, or if you work as a business analyst, you can bring insights and data and help them with that. So how does the conversation go? So again, first thing is look for a team that is close as much as possible, close to you, or that you are close to that team as much as possible. And the conversation goes something like this. Start with coffee chat. Start by saying, hey, I'm just, an aspiring PM, just wanting to learn more about what you do and what the team does as product managers, trying to understand the difference. Typically, when it's internal in the company, people are very open to sharing things like that. So start with a simple coffee chat, and always end your coffee chat with that or those PMs with an action. The action is, hey, is there something that you recommend that I do? A book, a course, a whatever. And most likely they're going to say, oh, go and check these things out. Go and do it. and then come back. It can take you, a week or two or a month, but come back and say, hey, thanks for the recommendation. It was amazing. I did this. Here's what I learned. I was wondering if we could have another coffee chat, and then have a second coffee chat and keep talking about the things that you learned and ask questions and see how that's different from from what you learned in a course or a book or whatever they recommended. And end again with another action. Hey, is there anything else that you recommend? Again, most likely they will say yes. And they will recommend, even if it's a simple YouTube video or a podcast, go and do it and then come back. And you're slowly building this relationship. And once there's enough trust in that relationship, and that they've seen that you've put the effort to go and do what they told you to do, then the conversation is slightly easier for you to say, hey, I've been thinking about all these things that I've learned about product management. What you're doing sounds amazing. Is there any way that I can help you with your job besides the things that I'm already doing? As an example, I'll be happy, if it helps you in any way, to sit in a meeting and take notes for you. Happy to do a recap of the meeting, share those with you and with the team. And I mean, in the end, it's going to depend on the PM if they're willing to give you that opportunity or not. But start offering these small tasks, or start with something like, "Hey, are you working on some documents? I'll be happy to, give you an external opinion, or even start something for you." So start small and simple, and little by little, as you prove that you can do these things, you're going to do it. Now, there's a second thing, super quick to mention here, and I'm going to use Shivi as an example. Shivi, as a content creator, as a PM content creator at a company, people at LinkedIn can reach out to Shivi and say, hey, I'm interested in product management. How can I help you in your journey to create content? And it can be anywhere from helping to host these amazing sessions all the way to helping with, some internal newsletter or any other tasks that are going to give people experience, going to give that closeness to Shivi, and in the end, start building that relationship to learn more and more and more about product management. To end, all I would say is your goal about networking, whether it's internal at a company or external, is not to get the referral or the job right away. It's to build the relationship. Relationships are key in your transition to become a product manager.
That's awesome. I think you just offer Andrew on the spot as the best example of how to network internally with PMs. Diego, I like to maybe close with one more question from the audience. A few of folks have asked, hey, do you need certification? This is probably one of the most, if not the most, common question that people always ask, is that, do I need a certification to become a product manager? You mentioned a little bit about you're creating a course, for aspiring PMs to, are you going to provide a certification? Like what is your take on, what kind of education PMs need in order to get the job?
Let me start with saying this. Imagine that getting into product management is like baking a cake. You need the ingredients, so you need the skills, you need to get everything ready, right? In the kitchen counter, so you're getting all the skills. You're going to the grocery store, so building your side projects to get those skills and bring them back home. So you've got everything ready, your resume, your profile, everything's there. So you have the ingredients. So then you start to bake the cake. So you do your networking, you start to showcase your side project of hashtag building public. You start reaching out to hiring manager, you start reaching out to other aspiring PMs, but also current PMs. You start doing internal transfers, networking. You do all of this awesome work. And then you study certification. The certification is the cherry on top of the cake. Does it make the cake look nicer? Sure. Would it change drastically the taste of the cake? Not really. If your cake doesn't taste well, the cherry is not going to make it, a good cake. If you don't bake the cake and you just get the cherry, all you have is a cherry. You don't have a cake. Certifications are at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the things that you have to consider when breaking into product management. Certifications will help you learn and understand more about product management. Some of the courses, some of the school courses will help you build a network of other aspiring PMs and current PMs. Sure, treat certifications as a way to learn more about product management in a structured in a structured way, in a structured approach to learning product management. Do not treat certifications as the number one thing that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. So once again, do certifications matter? Not really. They matter for you to learn and for you to be more knowledgeable about product management. But first, bake the cake, get the ingredients, and then put the cherry on top.
I love this analogy, cherry on the top. Andrew, we need to make that into the newsletter for anyone who's curious about this question. I think we're coming up on time. And Diego, thank you so much today being with us. I think you're getting a lot of loves from the community. People love the series, love your chat. You're so down to earth. This has been really, really helpful. And then also kudos to Andrew for coming up with a lot of really great questions. It's being shout out by the community a few times as well. I'm only featuring a couple of, chats. So I would like to conclude this session with a lightning round of 3 questions. You have about 30 seconds to 60 seconds to answer each of them. So it would be great if you can share some of the additional gems to our community. So the first question, are you ready for the challenge, first of all?
Let's do this. Sounds fun.
Awesome. Let's do it. So first, what is currently your favorite product?
Oh, that's a tough one. My favorite product is Twitch. I love video game streaming.
Awesome. Okay. What is your product role model, or who has been a product leader that's been very influential in your product career?
I don't have one. What I did is I built a network of other great product managers that helped me shape the PM that I want to be. There are amazing people out there in the industry, but for me, I couldn't find that's the PM that I want to be. Instead, I went and found traits in people that I admire, and I'm hoping to combine them.
That's awesome. What is one final piece of advice or resources you like to offer to aspiring PMs on this live chat?
2 things. One, put much more effort in side projects, in networking, in getting to be part of the community, instead of just only focusing on your resume and LinkedIn. LinkedIn and resume are very important, but at some point, start focusing more on the other. And then the second one, happy to quickly close with a nice surprise that I have for everyone in the audience, if that's okay with you, Shivi.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
We'll include that in the newsletter too, just in case if people didn't click or missed it. So yes.
Perfect.
Go
so
ahead.
Just to conclude, so I recently launched a new course on how to ace your PM interviews. It's been amazingly received by everyone in the course already. Tons of great feedback is being built by you, by listening to you who are students of the course. I get your input and I create videos that will help you crack your PM interviews. So to celebrate this great gathering, I created a code. I'm going to paste it in the chat, but it's basically Shivi20. If you put it in the card, it's going to give you an extra 20% discount only for this weekend. So I'm hoping that more people get advantage of this offer, because this is never going to be priced lower than this any other time. So looking forward to helping more aspiring PMs through this awesome course built by the community. And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. Diego, I'm going to put you on the spot to challenge you to extend that discount to the next weekend when we publish our newsletter, so that more people can benefit from it, if you would be up for that treat.
Perfect.
But thank you so much.
Let's do that.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. Thank you, Diego, for sharing your wisdom. I don't have to feature any more comments. I think the chat exploded. Everybody loves it. And Andrew, thank you so much for being a role model for a lot of aspiring PM in your journey, as well as preparing thoughtful question on behalf of the community. So thank you so much for your presence as well. All right, everyone, hope you have a great Friday. I know some of you joining us live Friday night, where you are in the world. So thank you for your enthusiasm and your support. And I hope to see a lot of side project being spin out as part of this chat. And stay tuned. Bye.